Happy morning, dear students. I welcoming you all to this online learning. We are completing our portion, and this is the last lesson for you. That is the biodiversity and Earth's conservation. What is meant by biodiversity? In 1992, the UN Earth Summit defined biodiversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystem, and the ecological complexes of which they are a part. This includes diversity within the species, between the species, and ecosystem of a region. The term biodiversity was introduced by Walter Rosen in the year 1986. Biodiversity is the assemblage of different life forms. Each species is adapted to live in its specific environment. Edward Wilson popularized the term biodiversity to describe diversity at all levels of biological organization, from population to biomes. There are three levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. What is genetic diversity? Genetic diversity refers to the differences in the genetic makeup, that means the number and the types of genes between the distinct species, and to the genetic variation within a single species. Also covers genetic variation between distinct population of the same species. Genetic diversity means difference in the genetic makeup, right? India has more than 50,000 genetic variants of paddy and 1,000 variants of mango. Variation of genes of a species increases with diversity in size and habitat. It results in the formation of different races, varieties, and subspecies. Rauwolfia omitteria, a medicinal plant growing in different ranges of the Himalayas, shows difference in the potency and concentration of the active ingredient, reserpine. So this Rauwolfia omitteria have an ingredient called reserpine due to genetic diversity. Genetic diversity helps in developing adaptations to changing environmental conditions. Next is the species diversity. This refers to the variety in number and richness of the species in any habitat. The number of species per unit area at a specific time is called as species richness, which denotes the measure of species diversity. The Western Ghats have greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. The more the number of species in an area, the more is species richness. The three indices of diversity are alpha, beta, and gamma diversity. Alpha diversity is measured by counting the number of taxa within a particular area or an ecosystem. Beta diversity is the species diversity between two adjacent ecosystems and is obtained by comparing the number of species unique to each of the ecosystem. And gamma diversity refers to the diversity of the habitat over the total landscape or geographical area. Ecosystem diversity is the variety of habitat, biotic communities, and ecological process in the biosphere. Next, we move on to the magnitude of biodiversity. Biodiversity is often quantified as the number of species in a region at a given time. The current estimate of different species on Earth is around 8 to 9 million. However, we really do not know the exact magnitude of our natural wealth. This is called the taxonomic impediment. So far, about 1.5 million species of microorganisms, animals, plants have been described. India is very rich in terms of biological diversity due to its unique biogeographical location, the diversified climatic conditions, and enormous ecodiversity and geodiversity. According to World Biogeographic Classification, India represents two of the major realms and the three biomes. With only about 2.4% of world's total land surface, India is known to have over 8% of the species of animals that the world holds, and this percentage accounts for about 92,000 known species. India is the seventh largest country in the world in terms of area. It also reflects different kinds of climates, precipitation, temperature, distribution, river flow, and soil. India is one of the 17 megadiversity countries of the world and has 10 biogeographic zones with the characteristics habitat and biota. Next, we move on to the patterns of biodiversity distribution. So, this biodiversity distribution, the habitat conditions are determined by their latitudes and altitudes. Latitudinal and altitudinal gradients, temperature, precipitation, distance from the equator, altitude from sea level are some of the factors that determine the biodiversity distribution pattern. The most important pattern of biodiversity is latitudinal gradient in diversity. This means that there is an increasing diversity from the poles to equator. Diversity increases as one moves towards the temperate zone and reaches the maximum at the tropics. Thus, tropics harbor more biodiversity than temperate or polar region. So, what are the reasons for richness of biodiversity in the tropics? Warm tropical region between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn on either side of equator possess congenital habitats for living organisms. Environmental conditions of the tropics are favorable not only for speciation but also for supporting both variety and number of organisms. The temperature vary between 25 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius, a range in which most metabolic activities of living organisms occur with ease. The average rainfall is often more than 200 millimeters per year. Climate, seasons, temperature, humidity, photo period are more or less stable and encourage both variety and numbers. Rich resource and nutrient availability is present in tropics. So these are the various reasons for richness of biodiversity in the tropics. Next is what is the difference between species and area? German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt explored the wilderness of South American jungles and found that within a region the species richness increased with increasing area but up to a certain limit. So this was given in a log scale. Okay, on a logarithmic scale the relationship is a straight line described by the equation log s is equal to log c plus z log a, where s is the species richness, a is the area, z is the slope of the line, and c is the y minus intercept. And next, what are the importance of biodiversity? Biodiversity is the variety of life on earth, that is, it is the number of different species of flora and fauna, including the microorganisms. The importance of biodiversity can be viewed and measured as ecosystem services, biological resources, social benefits of biodiversity. The major functional attributes are continuity of nutrient cycles or biogeochemical cycles, such as nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, hydrological cycle, etc. Soil formation, conditioning or maintenance of soil health, that means the fertility of the soil by soil microbial diversity along with the different trophic members, increases the ecosystem productivity and provide food resources. It acts as water traps, filters, water flow regulators and water purifiers which cover most of the forest and vegetation. Climate stability plays a very important function in biodiversity. Forest resource management and sustainable development. maintaining balance between the biotic components, that means the living components, cleaning up of pollutants, that means microbes are the biggest degraders of molecule, including many anthropogenic ones. What is anthropogenic? Human made pollution which are present in effluents, sewage, garbage and agrochemicals. Ecological stability. The varieties and richness of species contribute to ecological stability and survival of species. To provide unique aesthetic value and hotspots for ecotourism. Along with forest resources and wildlife, it has commercial significance and it acts as an indicator of the health of the ecosystem. Endemism is a crucial indicator of richness. So, these are the various functions of biodiversity.